The void whispers secrets, but survival screams louder. The hull of the Wayfarer shuddered as another plasma bolt slammed into its flank. Sparks sprayed across the cockpit, bathing Kara Vey's oil-streaked face in a flickering red glow. She gripped a jagged metal rod, slamming it into the jammed control panel with a grunt. Metal screeched in protest, bending under her force. "Hold on, Finn," she bellowed over the roar of the failing engines. "I'm not dying today." A deafening boom echoed through the ship. The viewport flared with the sickly green light of a dying star, its magnetic storm clawing at the Wayfarer's hull. Beyond the cracked glass, shadows darted, raider ships, their jagged silhouettes weaving through the chaos of Sector 9. Pirates, scavengers, the kind of scum that thrived in the galaxy's forgotten corners. Kara's lips curled into a snarl. "Bastards picked the wrong day to mess with me." Kara. Finn's voice crackled through the comms, thin and trembling. "They're getting closer. I think they're—" His words drowned in a fit of coughing, sharp and wet. The 8-year-old was tucked away in the cargo hold, clinging to a safety harness. She could picture his wide, terrified eyes, his small hands shaking, her stomach twisted. He didn't deserve this. "Stay put, kid," Kara snapped, her voice rough but steady. She yanked a lever free from the sparking console, rerouting power to the shields. A low hum pulsed through the ship as the energy barriers flickered back to life. "We're tougher than they think." The Wayfarer groaned, its patched-up frame rattling like a beast refusing to die. Outside, a raider ship veered too close, its cannons glowing hot. Kara smirked, cold and defiant. "Come on then, take your shot." The blast hit hard. The cockpit lurched, throwing Kara against the wall. Pain flared in her shoulder, but she gritted her teeth and hauled herself back to the controls. Alarms blared, a relentless, shrieking wail that drilled into her skull. Shields at 20%, the ship's six droned, its synthetic voice maddeningly calm. Hull breach imminent. Kara cursed under her breath. Sector 9 storms were bad enough without these vultures circling. Then it came, a sound that didn't belong. A low, eerie hum caught through the chaos, slicing past the alarms and the rumble of the engines. It wasn't the raiders. It wasn't the storm. Kara froze, her hand hovering over the throttle. The comms hissed with static, and a faint, rhythmic pulse bled through. Voom, 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 like a heartbeat from the void. Her eyes narrowed. "What the hell is that?" "Kara." Finn's voice broke through again, quieter now. "Something's whispering. Do you hear it?" His words sent a chill down her spine. She didn't answer, her gaze darting to the cracked sensor screen. A signal blinked, faint and erratic, originating from deep within the dead zone. Not the raiders. Not anything she'd seen before. Her gut tightened. Trouble had a way of finding her, but this felt different. Bigger. Another explosion rocked the ship, snapping her back to the fight. A raider vessel loomed in the viewport, its hull scarred and bristling with guns. Kara's fingers danced across the controls, diverting the last scraps of power to the thrusters. The Wayfarer lurched forward, dodging a barrage of plasma fire by inches. "Hang on, Finn," she shouted. "We're punching through." The ship groaned as she pushed it harder, weaving through the storm's swirling debris. Sparks rained from the ceiling, stinging her arms. She didn't flinch. Pain was an old friend. The raiders fired again, but their shots went wide, swallowed by the magnetic tempest. Kara's chest heaved, a grim smile tugging at her lips. "That's right. Choke on it." But the hum didn't stop. It grew louder, threading through the static like a needle through fabric. Voom, voom, voom. Finn's voice crackled once more, barely audible. "Kara, it's calling us." She clenched her jaw, her mind racing. Raiders she could handle, storms she could outrun. But this was something else. Something that didn't belong in the ashes of Sector 9. The Wayfarer shuddered again, its engines spitting blue flame into the void. Ahead, the raiders regrouped, their lights cutting through the darkness like predator eyes. Kara gripped the controls, her knuckles white. Whatever that signal was, it'd have to wait. She had a fight to win, and a kid to keep alive. "Hold tight, Finn," she muttered, her voice low and fierce. "We're not done yet." The Wayfarer broke free of the raider's grasp, its thrusters spitting a trail of blue fire into the void. Kara Vey slumped back in the pilot's chair, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Sweat stung her eyes, mixing with the grime on her face. The cockpit smelled of burnt wiring and ozone, a sharp tang that clung to the air. She wiped her brow with a scarred hand, her short, singed hair plastered against her forehead. "Too close," she muttered, voice rough as gravel. "Way too damn close." Through the cracked viewport, Sector 9 stretched out like a graveyard. Dead planets hung in the distance, their surfaces pocked and gray, stripped bare by the Titans. Touch. Wrecked hulks of old freighters drifted aimlessly, their hulls glinting faintly under the cold light of a collapsing star. The magnetic storm churned on, a swirling mass of purple and black that crackled with static. Kara's jaw tightened. This was home now, a wasteland where hope went to die. "Finn," she called, twisting toward the comms panel. Her fingers hovered over the button, hesitating. "You still with me, kid?" Static hissed back for a heartbeat, then his small voice piped through, shaky but alive. "Yeah, Kara. I'm okay. Just scared." She exhaled, a knot loosening in her chest. "Good. Stay put. I'm coming down." She hauled herself up, wincing as her bruised shoulder protested. The Wayfarer's corridors were a maze of patched metal and flickering lights. Every step echoed with a dull clang, the ship's bones creaking under its own weight. Kara moved fast, her boots thudding against the floor. She was 29, lean and wiry, with eyes like chipped ice, blue and sharp, hiding a storm of her own. The old flight suit hung loose on her frame, patched with duct tape and stained with years of grit. She didn't look like a hero. She didn't feel like one either. Finn waited in the cargo hold, curled up on a crate. His thin arms clutched a frayed blanket, his wide eyes locked on her as she stepped in. "Kara," he rasped, voice cracking into a cough. She knelt beside him, brushing a hand over his sweaty forehead. His skin burned too hot, a fever from the sickness eating him alive. Radiation from a Titan strike years ago had left its mark, cellular decay. The med scanners called it. "Hey, kid," she murmured, softer now. "Told you we'd make it." He managed a weak smile. "You always say that." Kara chuckled, low and dry. "And I'm always right, aren't I?" She ruffled his hair, hiding the worry clawing at her gut. Finn was her anchor, the one thing keeping her from drifting into the void herself. She'd pulled him from a wrecked station 2 years back. A scrawny kid with no one left. Now he was hers to protect, no matter the cost. The hum started again. Low and steady, it pulsed through the ship's walls, a sound like distant thunder rolling closer. Voom, voom, voom. Finn's head tilted, his brows furrowing. "It's back," he whispered. Kara frowned, standing up. "Yeah, I hear it too." She glanced at the cargo hold scanner, a beat-up screen flickering with static. The signal was there, sharp, erratic, cutting through the storm's noise. It came from the dead zone, a stretch of space even raiders avoided. Her stomach twisted. "Something's out there," she said, more to herself than him. Sector 9 wasn't always like this. Once, it thrived under the Galactic Union, a sprawling network of planets linked by trade and tech. Kara remembered the stories her parents told. Scientists, both of them, with stars in their eyes. "The galaxy's alive," her mother used to say, voice warm and surer. "Listen, Kara. It whispers, if you know how to hear." Then the Titans came. No warning, no mercy. They swept through, turning worlds to ash and metal. leaving behind husks that pulsed with strange energy. The Union crumbled, and Kara's parents vanished in the chaos, lost to some secret project she'd never understood. Now, survival ruled. Delta crystals powered what was left, rare, glowing shards scavenged from wrecks. Kara kept the Wayfarer running on fumes and grit, dodging pirates and cultists who saw the Titans as gods. She'd seen their kind before, hooded, figures chanting in the ruins, offering blood to the void. Fools, she spat, shaking off the memory. Her fight was here, with Finn, not some cosmic madness. Kara? Finn's voice pulled her back. He pointed at the scanner, his finger trembling. It's moving. She squinted at the screen. The signal shifted, darting closer through the storm. Her pulse quickened. That's no radar tech, she muttered. Too clean. Too alive. The hum grew louder, vibrating in her chest. Voom, voom, voom. Finn clutched her arm, his grip weak but desperate. What if it's them? He whispered. The Titans. Her mind flashed to a memory. Her father's voice, strained and urgent years ago. If you hear the whispers, Kara, run. They're not what they seem. She shoved the thought down, forcing a grim smile. If it's Titans, kid, they'll wish they'd stayed quiet. She stood checking the pistol at her hip. The Wayfarer's engine sputtered, a low growl beneath the hum. Whatever was out there, it was closing in fast. A sharp beep cut through the tension. The proximity alarm flared red. Kara's eyes snapped to the viewport. Beyond the storm, a faint shape emerged, small, metallic, glinting like a predator's tooth. Not a ship, not a drone. Something else. Her breath caught. Finn, she said. Voice low and steady. Get behind me, now. The Wayfarer limped through the void, its engines coughing out a weak sputter of blue flame. Kara Vey guided the ship toward a jagged silhouette ahead, a trading outpost carved into the husk of a shattered moon. Its surface gleamed with patched metal plates lit by the faint, flickering glow of jury-rigged lamps. She adjusted the throttle, her jaw tight. We're low on juice, Finn, she called over her shoulder. This dumps our best shot. Finn peeked from the co-pilot's seat, his small frame dwarfed by the harness. Looks creepy, he murmured, voice raspy from his latest coughing fit. Kara shot him a sidelong glance, her ice-blue eyes softening for a moment. Creepy pays the bills, kid. Stay close when we land. The Wayfarer shuddered as it docked, metal grinding against metal with a screech that set her teeth on edge. The airlock hissed open, spilling them into the outpost's grimy heart. The air reeked of rust and stale coolant, thick enough to taste. Stalls lined the narrow walkway, piled with scavenged tech, cracked delta crystals, busted plasma coils, and scraps of hull plating. Voices buzzed around them, a mix of haggling shouts and low, wary mutters. Kara kept her hand near her pistol, scanning the crowd. Sector 9 taught you quick. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Kara Vey. A voice cut through the din, sharp and metallic, like a blade scraping stone. She turned to see Trove limping toward her, his mechanical legs whirring with each step. His face was a patchwork of flesh and steel, one eye replaced by a glowing red lens that clicked as it focused. Heard your rust bucket coming a mile off, he rasped, a grin splitting his scarred lips. Thought the Titans finally got you. Not yet, Trove, Kara replied, her tone dry as dust. She crossed her arms, sizing him up. You got a Delta Core stashed somewhere? Finn's oxygen scrubbers are running on fumes. Beside her, Finn coughed into his sleeve, his thin shoulders trembling. Trove's lens whirred, locking onto the boy for a moment before flicking back to her. Always the bleeding heart, he muttered. Got something better than a core. Come see. He led them through the maze of stalls to a cluttered workshop, its walls lined with tools and glowing screens. A faint hum pulsed in the air, not the outpost's machinery, but something deeper. Voom, voom, voom. Kara's gut tightened. She knew that sound. Trove rummaged through a pile of junk, pulling out a small metallic sphere. It glinted under the dim light, its surface etched with faint, shifting lines. A single ring of pale light pulsed around it, slow and steady. "Found. There's drifting in a wreck," he said, holding it up. "Calls it the silent core. Weird little bastard, ain't it?" Kara stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. The sphere twitched in Trove's grip, spinning slightly as if it sensed her. "Weird's an understatement," she said, voice low. "What's it do?" Trove shrugged, his metal fingers clinking against the sphere. "Dunno yet. Picked up a signal from the dead zone. Same one you probably heard. Thought you might figure it out." "You're good at breaking things open," she smirked, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I need that core, Trove. Finn's dying on me." Her words hung heavy, sharper than she meant. Trove's grin faded, replaced by a flicker of something darker. "Lost my sister to the Titans," he growled, his voice dropping to a rumble. "Watched 'em turn her station to slag. If this thing's got answers, I want 'em. Take it. Check that signal. Bring me back something worth a damn." Finn tugged at her sleeve, his wide eyes locked on the sphere. "It's humming again," he whispered. Kara glanced down, then back at Trove. "You're betting a lot on a hunch," she said, her tone flat. He leaned in, his red lens glinting. "So are you, Vey. That kid's your hunch. We're not so different." The hum grew louder, threading through the workshop's clutter. Voom, voom, voom. The sphere's light pulsed faster, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Kara's hand hovered over it, hesitating. Her mind flashed to the raiders. The storm. That signal cutting through the void. "Fine," she snapped, snatching the silent core from his grip. "But if this blows up in my face, I'm coming for you." Trove chuckled, a low, grating sound. "Wouldn't expect less." He limped back to his workbench, tossing a delta core her way. "For the scrubbers, call it a down payment." Kara caught it midair, her fingers curling tight. She turned to Finn, jerking her head toward the exit. "Let's move, kid. This place gives me the creeps." As they stepped back into the outpost's chaos, the sphere pulsed in her hand, warm against her skin. Finn's voice piped up, soft and shaky. "Kara, what if it's alive?" She stopped, her boots scuffing the grimy floor. The hum buzzed in her ears, insistent, alive. Her grip tightened. "Then we've got bigger problems than raiders," she muttered. "Way bigger." The Wayfarer hummed to life as Kara slaughtered the delta core into the oxygen scrubbers. A soft whir filled the cockpit, clean air hissing through the vents. She leaned back in the pilot's chair, exhaling a slow breath. The outpost's jagged outline faded behind them, swallowed by the endless black of Sector 9. "Scrubbers are holding Finn," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "You can breathe easy for a bit." Finn sat cross-legged on the floor, his thin frame hunched over the silent core. The metallic sphere rested in his lap, its pale ring of light pulsing faintly. "It's warm," he murmured, tracing a finger along its etched surface. His voice was weak, strained from the sickness, but his wide eyes sparkled with something alive. Curiosity, maybe hope. Kara's chest tightened. "Don't get too attached, kid," she warned, keeping her tone light. "It's just a fancy paperweight till we figure it out." She turned back to the controls, plotting a course toward the dead zone. The nav screen flickered, painting a jagged path through the storm's debris. Beyond the viewport, the void shimmered with faint static, the dying star's light bending in eerie waves. The Wayfarer groaned as it pushed forward, its patched hull creaking like an old man's joints. Kara tapped the console, muttering under her breath, "Hold together, you stubborn beast, we've got work to do." Then it started again. The hum. Low and steady it rolled through the ship, a vibration she felt in her bones. Voom, voom, voom. Finn's head snapped up, his blanket slipping to the floor. "Kara, it's humming again," he said, voice rising with a mix of fear and wonder. She spun in her chair, eyes locking on the core. Its light flared brighter, casting a pale glow across the cockpit. "Yeah," she replied, her words clipped. "I hear it." The sphere twitched in Finn's hands, spinning slowly on its own. A faint crackle sparked from its surface, and the nav screen flickered wild. Lines of static danced across it, then resolved into something impossible. A blurry, shifting image. Kara leaned forward, her breath catching. It was a shape, massive and angular, a block of gleaming metal suspended in the void. Tendrils of steel unfurled from its sides, writhing like living things. Red energy pulsed along its edges, sharp and angry. "What the hell?" she whispered, her voice trailing off. Finn clutched the core tighter, his knuckles white. "It's one of them," he breathed. "A titan." The image wavered, then sharpened. A planet loomed beneath the shape, its surface turning gray and lifeless as the tendrils sank into it. Kara's stomach twisted. She'd seen the aftermath of titans before. Worlds reduced to husks, their cores pulsing with that same strange metal. But this wasn't a memory. This was alive. A glimpse from somewhere else. The hum deepened, threading through the static with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. Finn tilted his head, his brows furrowing. "It's talkin'," he said, barely audible. Kara shot him a look, sharp and searching. "Talking? You hear words?" He shook his head, his small hands trembling. "Not words. Feelings, like it's scared or mad. I don't know." His voice cracked and he coughed hard, doubling over. "Easy, kid," Kara said, sliding from her chair. She knelt beside him, steadying his shoulders. His skin burned under her touch, fever hot again. She brushed a damp strand of hair from his forehead, her fingers lingering. "You're okay. Just breathe." Finn nodded weakly, leaning into her. "You're always here," he mumbled, a faint smile tugging at his lips. She smirked, ruffling his hair. "Damn right I am. Someone's gotta keep you out of trouble." The core pulsed again, its light flaring bright enough to sting her eyes. The image on the screen shifted, symbols now, jagged and unfamiliar, scrolling fast. Kara stood, her mind racing. "That's no radar signal," she muttered, fists clenching. Trove knew this thing was more than scrap. She grabbed the sphere from Finn's lap, turning it in her hands. It vibrated against her palms, warm and insistent, like it wanted her to listen. Her thoughts drifted, unbidden, to her parents. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory, soft but firm. "The galaxy whispers, Kara. You just have to learn its language." Her father's face flashed next, tense, urgent, the last time she'd seen him. "Run from the whispers," he'd said. She shook her head, shoving the past down. "Not running this time," she growled under her breath. "Not with Finn on the line." The Wayfarer jolted, a sudden lurch that threw her against the console. Alarms blared, a shrill wail cutting through the hum. "Proximity alert," the VI droned, calm as ever. "Unidentified object approaching." Kara's eyes snapped to the viewport. Through the storm a shadow moved, small, glinting, the same shape she'd seen before, landing at Trove's. Her pulse hammered. "It followed us," she said, voice low and fierce. "Son of a bitch." Finn scrambled to his feet, clutching her arm. "Kara, what do we do?" The core's hum surged, loud, enough to rattle the walls. Boom, boom, boom. The symbols on the screen pulsed red, frantic now. She gripped the sphere tight, her knuckles white. "We figure out what it wants," she said, staring into the void, "before it figures us out first." Outside, the shadow grew closer, its edges catching the starlight. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive, not in any way she understood. The hum filled her ears, drowning everything else. Something was coming, something big, and it wasn't letting go. The Wayfarer drifted into the dead zone, its engines a low growl against the silence. Kara Vey stared through the viewport, her breath fogging the cracked glass. Beyond, the void was a tomb, black and still, dotted with the husks of ancient stations and shattered moons. No stars burned here, just the faint, cold glow of forgotten wrecks. She gripped the controls, her ice blue eyes narrowing. "This is it, Finn," she said, voice steady despite the chill creeping up her spine. Torv's signal came from here. Finn huddled beside her, wrapped in his frayed blanket. His small hands clutched the silent core, its light pulsing faintly against his pale skin. "It's quiet," he whispered, his voice thin and shaky. "Too quiet." Kara nodded, her jaw tight. The hum had stopped an hour ago, leaving an eerie void in its wake. She didn't trust the silence. It felt like a predator holding its breath. The nav screen beeped, locking onto a faint structure ahead. A Union research station, half collapsed, its metal skeleton twisted like a broken spine. Kara's gut twisted too. She knew this place. Station Alpha 7, she muttered, the name clawing up from memory. "My parents worked here." Finn glanced up, his wide eyes searching her face. "Before they went away?" She gave a sharp nod, shoving the ache down. "Yeah. Before everything went to hell." She guided the wayfarer closer, docking with a dull clang that echoed through the hull. The airlock hissed open, spilling them into a dark, frigid corridor. The air stung her lungs, stale, metallic, laced with the faint rot of decay. Lights flickered overhead, casting jagged shadows on walls scored with blast marks. Kara's boots crunched on shattered glass, her pistol drawn and ready. "Stay behind me, kid," she ordered, her voice low. Finn obeyed, his footsteps soft and uneven. The silent core flared in his hands, its light surging bright. Voom, voom, voom. The hum returned, sharp and insistent, vibrating through the station's bones. Kara froze, her pulse spiking. "It's waking up," Finn said, his voice trembling. Before she could respond, a panel on the walls sparked to life, projecting a hazy hologram. She stepped back, breath catching. It was her mother, Dr. Kara Vey, her face lined with strain, her voice crackling through static. "Kara, if you're seeing this, we failed," the hologram said, urgent and raw. "The Titans, they're not invaders. They're a response. We activated the Whisper Network, ancient tech, meant to fight something worse. It called them instead." The image flickered, her mother's eyes wide with fear. "Run, Kara. Don't trust the whispers." The feed cut out, plunging the corridor back into shadow. Kara's hands shook, her pistol dipping. "A response," she rasped, voice barely audible. Finn tugged her sleeve, his grip weak. "What's the Whisper Network?" She didn't answer, her mind reeling. Her parents hadn't just vanished. They'd unleashed this nightmare. The Titans, the dead worlds, Finn's sickness, all of it traced back here. Guilt gnawed at her, bitter and cold. "I should have known," she muttered. "Should have listened." The core pulsed again, louder now, its light flooding the corridor. Voom, voom, voom. The floor trembled and another hologram flared up. A lab, pristine once, now a wreck of shattered consoles and scorched walls. Her father stood in the center, his voice steady but strained. "Alara, we've got no choice," he said, hands moving fast over a glowing terminal. "The network's live. If it works, we stop the decay. If it fails..." He paused, glancing at something off-screen. "They're here." A shadow loomed behind him, angular, metallic, alive with red energy. The feed died in a burst of static. Kara's chest heaved, her breath ragged. "The decay," she echoed, fists clenching. "What the hell were you chasing?" The core's hum surged, rattling her teeth. Finn stumbled back, clutching it tight. "Kara, it's showing me," he cried. The sphere projected a new image, crude, flickering. A massive shape, not a titan, but something darker. A sprawling mass of shadow and light, tendrils swallowing stars whole. Her blood ran cold. "That's no titan," she growled. "That's something worse." Footsteps echoed behind them, sharp and deliberate. Kara spun, pistol raised, as a maintenance drone lurched from the shadows. Old Union tech. Its frame rusted, but active. Its single eye glowed red, locking onto the core. Intruders detected, it droned, voice flat and hollow. Surrender the artifact. Kara smirked, cold and defiant. Over my dead body, she snapped, firing a shot. The blast sparked, off its hull, doing little but slowing it down. The core's hum hit a fever pitch, shaking the walls. Voom, voom, voom. Finn's eyes widened, his voice small. Kara, it's mad. The drone lunged, its claws snapping toward the sphere. She shoved Finn behind her, unloading another round. Sparks flew, but the thing kept coming. Her mind raced, her parents' failure, the Titans, this new threat. She'd walked into a trap, and it was closing fast. Finn, run, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The drone's claw grazed her arm, drawing blood. She gritted her teeth, firing again. The past has caught up, and it wasn't letting go. The drone's claws screeched against the floor, sparks flying as Kara dragged Finn back down the corridor. Her pistol smoked in her hand, its last shot barely denting the machine's rusted hull. The silent core pulsed wildly in Finn's grip, its hum a frantic roar that shook the station's walls. Voom, voom, voom. Keep moving, kid, she barked, her voice raw over the chaos. Blood trickled down her arm, warm and sticky, but she ignored it. Pain could wait. They stumbled into a wider chamber, a docking bay, its ceiling cracked open to the void. Shattered crates littered the floor, and a faint hiss of escaping air whistled through the gaps. Kara's boots skidded to a stop, her chest heaving. The Wayfarer loomed ahead, docked and waiting, a lifeline in the dark. Almost there, she muttered, shoving Finn toward the airlock. His small frame trembled, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Kara, I can't. He started, then collapsed, coughing hard. Finn. She dropped to her knees beside him, her hands steadying his shoulders. His skin burned under her touch. Fever spiking again. The core slipped from his hands, rolling across the floor with a dull clang. Its light flickered, erratic and weak. Kara's gut twisted. He was fading fast. Too fast. Hang on, kid, she whispered, brushing sweat from his brow. I've got you. A shout cut through the silence. Human. Desperate, not mechanical. Help us. Kara's head snapped up, her pistol rising on instinct. Across the bay, a makeshift barricade of crates shifted and a figure emerged. A young woman, her dark hair tangled, her jumpsuit torn. She waved frantically, her voice cracking. Please, we're trapped. Behind her, more shapes moved. 5, maybe 6, survivors, their faces pale and gaunt. Kara's eyes narrowed, scanning them. The woman stepped closer, hands raised. I'm Nia, she said, breathless. We're Union remnants. Our ship's fried. Drones hit us days ago. You've got a ride. Take us with you. Her plea hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Kara glanced at the Wayfarer, then back at Finn. His breathing rattled, each cough weaker than the last. The hum surged again, loud and angry. Voom, voom, voom. The core flared, its light bathing the bay in a sickly glow. Nia's gaze darted to it, her brows furrowing. That thing. It's waking the drones, she said, stepping back. A metallic groan echoed from the corridor behind. A second drone lumbered into view, its red eye locking onto the core. Surrender the artifact, it droned, claws snapping. Damn it, Kara growled, her mind racing. She could grab Finn, haul him to the ship, and punch out now. The Wayfarer had enough juice to reach Trove, maybe find a fix for Finn's sickness. But Nia and her crew, they'd be dead in minutes, torn apart by drones or left to suffocate. Her parents' voices echoed in her skull, her mother's warmth, her father's warning. She'd failed them once, ignored their pleas. Could she live with failing these people too? Kara, Finn's voice was a whisper, his hand clutching her sleeve. "They're scared, like me." His wide eyes met hers, pleading in their own way. She clenched her jaw, guilt and fury warring inside her. "I know, kid," she said, voice low and fierce. "But you're my priority." She scooped the core from the floor, its heat searing her palm, and stood. The drone advanced, its claws scraping closer. Nia's voice rose, sharp with panic. "You can't leave us, please." Kara's grip tightened on her pistol, her breath hitching. Every second here drained Finn's chances, time she needed to save him. But those faces, Nia's, the others, burned into her. She cursed under her breath, loud and bitter. "Too damn close," she spat, her catchphrase a lifeline to her resolve. "Fine. Get to the ship, now." She fired at the drone, the shots sparking off its hull. It staggered, giving Nia's crew a window. "Move," Kara shouted, hauling Finn into her arms. His weight dragged at her, but she pushed forward, boots pounding the floor. Nia and the survivors scrambled behind, their footsteps a frantic drumbeat. The core's hum hit a fever pitch, rattling her teeth. Voom! 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 The drone recovered, lunging with a screech of metal. Kara reached the airlock, shoving Finn inside. "Lock it down," she yelled to Nia, who darted past with her crew. The drone's claws slammed into the frame, inches from her leg. She fired again, point blank, blasting its eye into a shower of sparks. It reeled back, giving her just enough time to dive in. The airlock sealed with a hiss, cutting off the drone's wail. She collapsed against the wall, Finn cradled in her lap. His breathing was shallow, his skin clammy. Nia knelt beside her, panting. "Thank you," she said, voice thick. Kara didn't look up, her eyes locked on Finn. "Don't thank me yet," she muttered, her tone hard. "We're not out of this." The Wayfarer shuddered as its engines roared to life, pulling free of the station. The core pulsed in her hand, its light dimming. Finn's hand tightened on hers, weak but there. "You saved them," he whispered. Kara's throat burned. She'd bought them time, but at what cost? The Wayfarer sliced through the void, its engines a ragged hum, against the silence of Sector 9. Kara Vey stood over the cockpit console, her hands braced on its edge, blood still drying on her arm. The silent core sat in front of her, its light, dim but steady, pulsing like a heartbeat she couldn't trust. Through the viewport, Torv's outpost loomed closer, jagged and glinting, a beacon in the dark. "We're back, Finn," she said, her voice rough but firm. "Let's see what Torv makes of this mess." Finn lay on a makeshift cot behind her, his breathing shallow and uneven. Nia knelt beside him, dabbing his forehead with a damp cloth. "He's burning up," she said, her tone tight with worry. The other survivors, 5 weary souls, huddled in the cargo hold, their murmurs a low buzz. Kara didn't look back, her ice-blue eyes locked on the core. "He's tougher than he looks," she muttered, more to herself than anyone. "He has to be." The ship docked with a jolt, metal grinding against the outpost's bay. Kara grabbed the core, its warmth prickling her palm, and marched toward the airlock. "Nia, keep an eye on him," she ordered, her boots thudding on the floor. "I'll handle Torv." The airlock hissed open, spilling her into the familiar chaos of the trader's den. Rust and coolant thick in the air, voices haggling over. Scraps. She pushed through, her jaw set, until she reached Torv's workshop. He was there, hunched over a glowing screen, his mechanical hands clinking as he worked. "Vey," he rasped, not looking up. His red lens whirred, focusing on her, as she slammed the core onto his bench. "You're late. Thought the dead zone ate you alive." His voice carried a bitter edge, like steel on stone. Kara crossed her arms, her smirk cold. "It tried. This thing's more than you let on, Torv. Start talking." Torv straightened, his lens clicking as he studied the core. Its light flared under his gaze, faint symbols flickering across its surface. Boom, boom, boom. The hum stirred, low and restless. Told you it was special, he said, his grin sharp. Found logs in an old wreck. Union stuff. Says it's part of the Whisper network. Ancient AI packed with medtech and war data. My sister's station had one too, till the Titans torched it. His voice darkened, cracking on the last words. Kara's fists clenched, her mind flashing to Alpha 7. Her parents, their holograms, their failure. Yeah, I've seen the network, she snapped. It called the Titans, screwed us all. What's your angle, Trove? He leaned closer, his lens glinting. Revenge, he growled. Titans took everything. This core's got their secrets, maybe enough to hit back. I knew you'd crack it open. Revenge, she laughed, short and bitter. Finn's dying and you're playing. Vendetta with a glorified flashlight. She jabbed a finger at him, fury rising. You set me up. Trove's grin faded, his metal hand slamming the bench. I gave you the Delta Core, didn't I? We're square. But that signal, it's bigger than us. Titans aren't just killers. They're running from something. The decay, her breath caught. The decay, she echoed, the word cold on her tongue. The core pulsed harder, its hum threading through the workshop. Voom, voom, voom. Trove nodded, tapping a screen. Old Union files call it a cosmic cancer, some collective mind, born from sieves that went too far. Eats galaxies. Titans burn worlds to stop it spreading. That core might talk to him, maybe even turn him. Kara's mind raced, piecing it together. Her parents' experiment, the Titan's wrath, that shadow swallowing stars. You want to bargain with them? She asked, voice low and sharp. Trove shrugged, his lens clicking. If it saves what's left. Yeah, you've got the core. You've got the guts. Help me activate it fully. He slid a tool across the bench, a plasma cutter glinting under the light. Open it up, see what it knows. The hum surged, rattling the walls. Voom, voom, voom. The core's light flared red, casting Trove's face in a bloody glow. Kara stared at it, her hand hovering over the cutter. Finn's face flashed in her mind, pale, fading, counting on her. I need it for Finn, she said, her tone hard. Not your war. Trove's lens narrowed. You think it's just a medkit? It's more, Vey. Way more. A shadow moved outside the workshop, sleek, metallic, cutting through the outposts. Haze. Kara's head snapped up, her pistol clearing its holster in a heartbeat. What the hell's that? She growled. The core's hum hit a piercing note, shrill and wild. Trove cursed, his voice dropping. They're here. Titans tracked it. Through the viewport, a small Titan vessel loomed, angular, alive with Nupi Udwe. Red veins of energy. It wasn't firing. It was waiting. Kara's grip tightened on the core. Guess we're out of time, she said, her voice cold and steady. Your move, Trove. The Titan vessel hung outside the outpost, its sleek hull glinting like a shard of night. Red energy pulsed along its edges, a living heartbeat in the void. Kara Vey stood frozen in Trove's workshop, the silent core clutched tight in her hand. Its hum screamed through the air, a shrill wail that clawed at her skull. Voom, voom, voom. Trove, she snapped, her voice cutting through the noise. You woke it up. Now what? Trove limped to the viewport, his mechanical legs whirring. His red lens clicked, focusing on the Titan. It's not attacking, he rasped, his tone sharp with surprise. It's waiting. He turned to her, his scarred face taut. That core's talking to it. Activate it, Vey. Now. He thrust the plasma cutter toward her, its blade humming with a faint blue glow. Kara's eyes narrowed, her grip on the yay. Core tightening. Activate it, she growled. Finn's dying back there, and you want me to play pen pal with that thing. Her mind flashed to the Wayfarer, Finn's shallow breaths, Nia's worried face. Every second here was a gamble, with his life. Trove's lens flared, his voice dropping low. You saw the decay. This is bigger than one kid. Cut it open, get answers. The hum surged, rattling the workshop's walls. Voom, voom. Voom! The core flared red, its light searing her palm. Symbols erupted across its surface, jagged, alien, shifting fast. Kara's breath hitched as the viewport flickered, a projection, bleeding through the glass. The Titan's hull pulsed, and an image formed. A vast grid of stars, swallowed one by a writhing mass of shadow and light. The decay. Her stomach churned. "It's showing us," she whispered, voice tight. Trove leaned closer, his metal hand gripping the bench. "That's what they're fighting," he said, his words heavy. "Titans burn worlds to build a wall. Keep that thing caged. Sector 9's next on the pyre." The image shifted. Planets grayed out, their surfaces hardening into metal husks, a barrier against the dark. Kara's chest tightened. "They're not saving us," she snarled. "They're sacrificing us." The core's hum softened, threading into a rhythm like a plea. Voom! 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 The projection changed again. A blueprint, faint and fractured, glowing inside the sphere's light. Kara squinted, her pulse racing. It was a formula. Chemical. Chains, complex and ancient, shimmering with promise. "Mad tech," she breathed, hope flaring sharp and sudden. "It's a cure. For Finn." Her eyes flicked to Trove. "You were right. It's more." Torv's grin returned, jagged and fierce. "Told you, Vey. Way more." He tapped the cutter. "Crack it. Take what you need. Then we talk to that bastard outside." The Titan loomed closer, its red veins pulsing brighter, patient but unyielding. Kara's hand hovered over the tool, her mind splitting in two. Finn's life hung on one side, her parents' failure, the galaxy's fate, on the other. "Too damn close," she muttered, her catchphrase a lifeline to her grit. She seized the cutter, its hum steadying her. "Hold still," she said to the core, as if it could hear. The blade bit into its surface, sparks flying in a shower of white heat. The hum spiked, a scream that shook the floor. Voom! 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 The sphere split, revealing a crystalline core, small, glowing, alive with data. The projection sharpened, steps to synthesize a cure, etched in light. But the outer shell dimmed, its hum fading to a whisper. Trove cursed, loud and sharp. "You broke it," he roared, lunging for the shell. Kara yanked it back, her pistol snapping up. "Back off," she growled, voice cold as steel. "Finn gets this first." The crystalline core pulsed in her hand, warm and fragile. She could save him, but the Titan's link was gone, the shell's power drained. Her choice had a cost. The viewport shuddered, a low rumble rolling through the outpost. The Titan moved, slow, deliberate, its hull splitting to reveal a glowing maw. No weapons, just a signal, pulsing in sync with the dying core. Voom! Voom! Kara's breath caught. "It's talking," she said, stepping closer to the glass. The projection flickered one last time. A map, Sector 9 marked in red, a countdown ticking down. "They're giving us a deadline," she realized, her voice hard. "Evacuate or burn." Trove's lens whirred, his face paling. "They'll torch it all," he muttered. "Everything I've got left." He turned to her, fury and fear warring in his eyes. "You could have stopped this, Vey. Linked up, turned them back." Kara met his gaze, unflinching. "Finn's my line," she said, her tone final. "Not your revenge." The Titan's maw pulsed brighter, its signal a warning bell. Kara's mind raced. Nia's crew, the outpost, Finn's cure. She'd saved him, but at what price? The Wayfarer waited, her only shot to run. "Get your people out, Trove," she said, turning for the door. "Clock's ticking." The core's crystal glowed in her hand, a lifeline bought with blood and loss. A sharp crack split the air. The outpost's hull groaned, buckling under unseen pressure. The Titan was done, waiting. Kara bolted, her boots pounding the floor. "Finn!" she shouted into the comms, her voice raw. "We're leaving, now." The Wayfarer tore free of Trove's outpost, its engines roaring against the void's pull. Kara Vey gripped the controls, her knuckles white as the station's silhouette shrank in the viewport. A dull boom echoed behind them. The Titans work, cracking the moon's husk like an egg. Sparks flared in the dark, a fleeting funeral pyre for Trove's world. "Hold on, Finn," she shouted, her voice rough over the ship's groan. "We're clear." Finn lay on the cot, his small chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The crystalline core glowed in Kara's lap, its light steady now, a fragile hope carved from the silent core's ruin. Nia knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she prepped a makeshift injector with the synthesized cure. "It's ready," she said, her voice tight but firm. "You sure this'll work?" Kara's ice-blue eyes flicked to her, sharp and unyielding. "It better," she growled. "I didn't burn every bridge for nothing." Nia pressed the injector to Finn's arm. A soft hiss cut through the cockpit's hum, and his body tensed, then relaxed. Color crept back into his pale cheeks, slow but real. Kara exhaled, a knot loosening in her chest. "Come on, kid," she murmured, brushing his hair back. "You're tougher than this." His eyes fluttered open, weak but clear. "Kara?" he rasped, a faint smile tugging at his lips. She smirked, soft and rare. "Damn right I'm here." The Wayfarer steadied, its engines settling into a low rumble. Nia slumped back, wiping sweat from her brow. "He's stable, for now," she said, glancing at the survivors huddled in the hold. "But that cure's temporary. We need a real lab to make it stick." Kara nodded, her gaze drifting to the crystalline core. Its light dimmed slightly, a reminder of what she'd traded. The Titan's link was gone, the shell's power lost to save him. "One step at a time," she muttered. "We're alive. That's enough." A shadow flickered outside the viewport, faint, fleeting but wrong. Kara's head snapped up, her hand dropping to her pistol. The nav screen beeped, erratic and shrill. "Unidentified anomaly," the VI droned. "Calm as ever. Atmospheric distortion detected." She squinted into the void. Sector 9's sky darkened, a slow bleed of black spreading like ink. The ground below, cracked moons, dead worlds, shimmered, their surfaces hardening into a dull, metallic sheen. Her gut twisted. "The decay," she whispered, voice cold. "It's here." Nia stood, her face paling. "The Titan warned us," she said, stepping closer. "You refused them. Now what?" Kara's jaw tightened, guilt and defiance warring inside her. "I saved Finn," she snapped, her tone hard. "That's what matters." But the words felt hollow. Trove's outpost was ash, Sector 9 was next, and the decay's shadow loomed larger than any Titan. Her choice had ripples, ones she couldn't outrun. Finn coughed, weak but awake. "Kara, did we do the right thing?" His wide eyes searched hers, cutting deeper than she'd admit. She forced a grin, rough around the edges. "We're still breathing, kid. That's a win in my book." He nodded, trusting her. But the doubt lingered in her chest. Her parents' voices echoed, warnings she'd ignored, failures she'd repeated. "Too damn close," she muttered, her catchphrase a shield against the ache. Nia's hand rested on her shoulder, firm and steady. "You saved us back there," she said, her voice low. "We owe you. I owe you." Kara glanced at her, then at the survivors. 5 faces, worn but alive, watching her with quiet hope. "Your Union remnants," she said, piecing it together. "Resistance." Nia nodded, a spark lighting her eyes. "Scattered but out there. We've got a signal. Faint, coded, a base beyond the dead zone. They'll have labs, tech, maybe answers." The nav screen flared, a weak pulse cutting through the static, a beacon, distant but real. Kara's fingers hovered over the controls, her mind racing. Finn needed more than a patch job cure. Sector 9 was dying, the decay spreading like a plague. She'd run from the Titans, but running from this? That wasn't an option. "Set the course," she said, her voice steady. "We're joining up." Nia moved to the console, her hands quick and sure. The Wayfarer shifted, engines growling as it turned toward the signal. Kara cradled the crystalline core, its light a faint flicker now. Finn's hand found hers, small and warm. "We'll be okay, right?" he asked, his voice a thread of trust. She squeezed back, her throat tight. "Yeah, kid, we'll figure it out." The viewport darkened, the decay's shadow creeping closer. A low hum, not the core's, rumbled through the hull, distant but growing. Something was watching. Something was waiting. Kara's grip tightened on the controls. She'd made her choice, but the fight wasn't over. The Wayfarer carved a path through the void, its engines a steady growl against the creeping dark of Sector 9. Kara Vey sat at the helm, her ice-blue eyes locked on the nav screen. The resistance signal pulsed faint but insistent, a lifeline threading through the chaos. She adjusted the throttle, her scarred hands steady despite the ache in her bones. "We're on course, Nia," she called, voice rough but firm. "How's Finn holding up?" Nia stood over the cot, checking Finn's vitals with a battered med scanner. "Stable," she replied, her tone clipped but warm. "Fever's down. That cure's buying us time." Finn slept soundly, his small chest rising and falling under the blanket. The crystalline core rested beside him, its glow dim but alive. "Okay." Fragile victory snatched from the abyss. Kara's lips twitched, a rare hint of relief. "Good," she said, turning back to the controls. "He's tougher than he looks." The cockpit hummed with quiet tension, the survivors' murmurs drifting from the hold. Outside, the void shimmered, Sector 9's edges hardening, metal veins creeping across moons like a spreading rot. The decay's shadow loomed, a silent, tide-swallowing light. Kara's gut tightened. "It's moving faster," she muttered, her fingers tapping the console. "We've got to beat it to that base." Nia nodded, her dark eyes flicking to the viewport. "Resistance'll have answers. They've been tracking this longer than us." A low rumble stirred the hull, not the engines, but something deeper, rolling through the dark. Voom! Voom! Kara's head snapped up, her hand dropping to her pistol. "That's not the core," she said, voice low and sharp. The nav screen flickered, static clawing at the signal. Unidentified object approaching. The VI droned, its calm tone jarring against the rising hum. She squinted into the void. A shape emerged, sleek, angular, red veins pulsing along its hull. Another Titan. "Damn it," Kara growled, slamming the throttle forward. The Wayfarer lurched, its frame groaning under the strain. "Nia, strap in. We got company." Nia stumbled to a seat, buckling Finn's harness tighter. The survivors braced themselves, their gasps sharp in the tight space. The Titan closed in, its maw glowing, not with weapons, but with intent. Kara's pulse hammered. "It's not firing," she said, her mind racing. "What's it want?" The hum deepened, threading through the ship like a voice. Voom, voom, voom. The crystalline core flared, its light syncing with the Titan's pulse. Nia's breath hitched. "It's talking to that thing," she said, pointing at the core. Kara's eyes narrowed, a spark igniting in her chest. "Then let's talk back," she muttered, grabbing the core. Its warmth steadied her, a lifeline to her choice. She patched the Wayfarer's comms into the core, her fingers flying over the console. "Broadcast a signal," she ordered the VI. "Pulse it. Match their rhythm." The ship's lights flickered as power surged, a sharp beep, 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 cutting through the hum. The Titan slowed, its maw dimming slightly. Kara leaned closer to the viewport, her voice low and fierce. "You want something? Say it. I'm done running." The hum shifted, a pattern now, deliberate and clear. The nav screen sparked, projecting a fractured image. Sector 9, red zone spreading. then a single point blinking beyond the dead zone. The resistance base. A countdown ticked beside it, seconds bleeding away. "They're pointing us there," Nia said, her voice rising with hope. "They want us to go." Kara's jaw tightened. "Or they're hurting us," she countered, her tone cold. "Either way, they're not attacking." The Titan held its ground, its red veins pulsing slow and steady. Kara's mind churned. Torv's revenge, her parents' failure, Finn's life. She defied them once, cracked the core to save him. Now they were back, not with fire, but with this. A chance? A trap? "Too damn close," she muttered, her catchphrase grounding her. She punched the comms again, sending a burst of light from the Wayfarer's hull. 3 sharp flashes, a human signal. "Your move," she said, staring into the void. The Titan's maw pulsed once, bright and final, then dimmed. It turned, slow and deliberate, drifting back into the dark. The hum faded, leaving a silence that pressed against her ears. Nia exhaled, shaky but relieved. "They listened," she said, almost a question. Kara didn't answer, her gaze fixed on the spot where it vanished. "Maybe," she murmured, "or they're just biding time." Finn stirred, his voice a faint thread. "Kara, we're okay?" She turned, kneeling beside him. His wide eyes met hers, trusting as ever. "Yeah, kid," she said, squeezing his hand. "We're okay for now." She stood, resolve hardening, in her chest. "Nia, lock in that course. We're finding that base. No more guessing." The Wayfarer surged forward, its engines spitting blue flame into the void. The resistance signal grew stronger, a beacon cutting through the decays. Shadow. Kara gripped the controls, her mind set. Finn needed a real cure. Sector 9 needed a fight. She'd lost too much. Her parents, Torv, pieces of herself, to back down now. "I'll figure this out," she said, her voice low and fierce. A promise. To Finn, to Nia, to the galaxy itself. One way or another. The viewport glowed, the ship's lights flickering like a pulse against the dark. Ahead, the unknown waited. Resistance. Answers. Maybe redemption. Behind, the decay crept closer, a silent hunter. Kara's grip tightened. The journey wasn't over. Not yet.